and just how impressively they had cast it, because without it feeling like a diversity hire in the same way,
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
way that so many like Disney movies do these days. I just
yeah,
watched
yeah,
Haunted Mansion yesterday, and it's just like the cast couldn't be more sort of eclectic and whatever, and you're kind of like, okay, I get it, they're
yeah.
atoning for like decades and decades of being awful, but it feels like an overcorrection. Whereas in Mission Impossible, there are like four major female characters
Yeah.
in it. You got Haley Atwell,
Yeah.
Vanessa Kirby, Rebecca Ferguson, and Pom Clemente, all in like
Yeah.
really good,
Yeah.
robust, strong roles. And they're all women. And there's
Mm.
and the good thing is that there's no, on paper, probably or quite possibly, at least two of those didn't need to be women.
Right.
Uh, but just they made them women and they were great at it. But it didn't feel like they were doing it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just like really sort of just pleasantly surprised by how organic it felt, how natural it felt, and how well it worked. It didn't feel like they were doing it for anyone else's benefit other than just that's what the character was.
Well, I think what they did, I'm trying to think, I need to watch the movie again. It's a long movie and I've only seen it once and I was on vacation. So I'm at a bit of
So you were
a
drunk, is what you're
handicap
saying.
here. No, but I had my 12-year-old with me. But I was going to say, in previous reviews, one of the things that irks me is whenever they have to take a strong woman character and then create an artificial scene to show how she's better than all the guys. And it always feels concocted and out of place. And it immediately goes from, oh, here's a natural leader, top of her game person, to a diversity hire. I've got to show that this person it can be as good and as tough and as strong and any Haley Atwell, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Curry, all of them are just four unique characters in this film, each one with different motives, different, identities, different. They're real people. Coming back to what we were talking about Indiana Jones, they're
Yeah.
real people who occupy the real world. I mean, yes, they're a little fantastical. It's a Mission Impossible movie, obviously, but you feel like they're the kind of people you could be running into at a cocktail party because they have weight, and you don't feel like their presence here has been concocted in a diversity department in some backlog at a studio or production company. This has actually been written in creatively and artistically and as well thought out. And again, you don't get some of those sudden jolts. There's I won't name the show, but there's a show I was watching recently that's set in a historical time, and you could just see there's these 21st century sensibilities that pop into these previous century environments, and you're thinking, right, come on, really.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's lazy writing, but it happens.
Yeah.
It happens all the time, and that there has been sort of this sort of mad scramble to tickle the button. It was like Taika Waititi said something really interesting recently. I'm not sure the context of it. It was just sort of like a video that popped up in my feed, and it was at a press conference. And
I think the word diversity is wrong. I think that the idea of diversification of the screen is not quite right because it's actually confusing everyone. And what's happening is we're mistaking that for we have to include a person from every single race and every single background and every single part of the human experience in every show or everything that we make. That's not reality, and it's not authentic. I never grew up with a group of friends where there was someone who represented every ethnic group in my group of friends. I don't want to see one token Polynesian character in your show, okay? That's just weird. And, unless it makes sense. What I want to see is a fully Polynesian controlled Polynesian story that's written by and show run by, okay? I don't want to see, when we make our things, don't give us a white showrunner to tell us the rules and tell us how to do things.
That's the most unrealistic thing I've ever seen. I don't know any group of people that looks like that hang out together, whether they're friends, colleagues, or whatever, where it's literally, one of each.
Yeah. It's just so it's like a Benetton commercial.
Well, I was about to say that that's what we used to, joke about it, because the only time you would ever see it is in Benetton commercials back in the day, but where it was like literally all the colors of the rainbow, and that was the whole purpose, was to say we represent everybody in all of those ads. And it was interesting. He said, I don't want to see those. That isn't realistic to me. What I want to see is a group of Pacific Island kids or whatever, together in a show directed by a Pacific Islander, show run by a Pacific Islander, and that's the kind of diversity I want to see.
Well, I enjoy listening to NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour, but occasionally they get a little too high on their horse in this area. And their review on Oppenheimer was I just thought it was funny because they always have to point out, Christopher Nolan and his cast of all white actors from the and I'm thinking, well, it's the 1940s, and there's going to be a disproportionate amount of white males. I don't watch a movie about the Qing dynasty and go, there's a real lack of Latino representation here. It's
right.
Just, there, and then they use, and Christopher Nolan, who is known for being, I forget the term they use, but essentially he doesn't have gay characters in his movies. As if I don't presume to know Christopher Nolan, but I don't imagine when he's sitting down and writing, he's thinking, oh, I got to make sure I don't have any gay characters here. The very fact that they are bringing this into the review of Oppenheimer makes me thinking, what's their criteria of a great movie, and why do certain boxes?
In Oppenheimer, I bet you a third of those characters were gay.
Quite possibly.
It's just not important.
It's just not part of the story.
It's not part of their research.
Yeah,
It's not.
Sorry, I didn't notice.
I missed the pun. It's not part of the equation. Thank you. I just had to...
Well, come to think of it, I don't remember there being a lot of Christians or Muslims in that movie either. Why?
Right.
Because they probably don't figure into that film. It's just trying to find.
It doesn't come up in conversation. I don't remember there being that many vegetarians in that movie. There might have been. They just didn't talk about it.
Come to think about it, what were they eating at that restaurant? And were there single-use plastics involved?
I mean, it does get ridiculous, and I think we're hopefully we're at a kind of breaking point of it now.